Hi, this is Brenda McCoy. I want to tell you about our book, my twin sister and I, Linda, The Living Code, Deciphering Life's Spiritual Messages by Learning to Live from the Heart. And what we're going to do today is talk to you about one of the chapters in our book, and it's chapter 9, Putting Your Spiritual House in Order, Clearing the Karmic Clutter. We're going to take one exercise that's probably one of the most powerful exercises that we have learned in our years on our spiritual journey that will help you to clear the karmic clutter, clear emotional situations. This is an emotional stress technique is what we call it. And in the book we're going to cover on we call it the now points, and Linda's going to tell us more about it in just a moment. But you will use these points when you feel under pressure, any situation like that, having an argument with someone, alleviating fears and phobias, who doesn't have those, reducing physical and emotional trauma, when life throws you a curve, and it works great even if you have a nightmare. And so if you feel tired or if you have any kind of pain. So this is going to help you to do those releasements on that. And Linda's going to tell us, fill in a little bit more about this, of how she got started. She was the one that started with this, and then she taught it to me. And when she taught this to me, it was after my divorce, and I was in a new relationship, and which one I thought was love at first sight. And then I realized that it was really karma at first sight, that we talk about in the book on relationships, a chapter on relationships. And in this, it was just one of those where you just thought it was love at first sight. Well, after 2 or 3 months, both he and I knew this was not a relationship either one of us wanted to live in the rest of our lives, just because of our own personality issues that we had going in, our challenges. So, but anyways, as in relationships, when you stop that relationship, then it's a painful time. Well, Linda first used this technique on me, and I mean, it completely cleared everything. I got back to my center, back to who I was, and I was completely emotionally balanced. So it made a believer out of me. So she's going to talk a little bit about that, and it was miraculous. Let's put it that way.
Yes, and it was actually one of the times where it got Brenda's attention, and it was one of the first times that I'd used the technique on her. And in the early 90s, I became a Touch for Health instructor, and this is actually a segment of that training, and it has been so profound that I simply will not do a workshop without teaching this technique because of its consequences and help. One of the things that it does is it helps to balance the energy, and as we move into it, I'll show you or tell you a little bit more about that. But one of the things that it does is it does not solve the problem, but what it does is the stress that's causing the problematic problem and the stress from it. But it actually releases the stress and the tension from the problem.
So where do you find a place of balance about it?
Yeah, so you come to a place of balance where you can look at it objectively, and you're not caught in the emotional trauma of
Absolutely,
it.
I can testify.
Yeah, and you can back off and say, whoa, what happened there?
What was I thinking?
Sucked in. And in the book we call this fly paper, sticky fly paper, and it helps you get off the fly paper. And you can do this yourself, so that's the beauty of it. But I'm going to, I'll show you how to do that and what we can do and everything. So anyway, let's
And I'm going to be the volunteer.
Yeah, Brenda volunteered for it, so there we go. Okay, so now we're going to demonstrate exactly what the emotional stress release points are and where they are in the body. Keep in mind, this is something that you can do on yourself, and then also help other people. As a child, I don't know if you experienced it, but my mother would hold my forehead when I was sick. Or people, when they get upset, they slap their forehead. Well, what are they doing? They're accessing these points that I'm getting ready to show you. And why? Because they're so powerful in releasing stress that the innate intelligence in the body automatically does it. But now you can do it consciously and work with releasing your own stress. It's not uncommon for me to be at a stoplight holding my stress points. And if you're tired, notice that tiredness just kind of melts away. So these points you use these points at any time. They're located just above the eyebrows, about 1 inch above it. Some people have little protruding knots like Brenda does right up here.
It's from that square head.
Yeah. And so it's about a half inch or inch below the hairline and 1 inch above the eyes. But you're holding these points
Little
right
knobs.
here.
They're
Yes,
little
they're
knobs on
actually
your forehead.
yes. So they're actually acupressure points, and what they do is they release the stress. So what I'll have Brenda do, and this is for you too when you're doing it on yourself, I hold these points and I'll have her close her eyes, and she's going to think of a situation. Maybe she just was angry at somebody. She had somebody confronted her with anger, and this upset her. So anything that upsets you, it doesn't matter what it is, any situation that clicks your emotional body into a reaction, you can use this on. So I would have her go through the whole sequence of events. What did it sound like? What did it feel like? What did it look like? I'll have her go through that video over and over in her mind.
And explain to them what this is doing.
So when you go over,
yes,
when you go over and over this in mind, is what it's doing is the memory is in the back of the brain, and actually you can hold the back of the head if you want to, and like this. But the memory is back here. You're bringing it to the front, and when you bring this to the front and look at it, you're actually focusing your full conscious attention on it. And I call it the Christ light that's within. The light within is focusing on that, and we know that anything brought into the light cannot stay there. It will dissolve. So in other words, you are releasing all this and you're balancing this energy. What does this do? It causes you to react. So say as a child, you would react in anger a lot of times. Well, from my experience, and the Bible says, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. Well, why? Well, why it is that when you go to sleep and you're angry or you're upset about anything, it goes right into your subconscious mind. Now, in my Touch for Health, I taught that in the Chinese 5 elements, anger goes into your liver. So it's stored in your liver. So this is another reason, is to release all this stuff before you go to bed.
So especially if you have liver issues,
yes,
you already know what you need to do.
Now, whenever you've gone through this and thought of it several times over, when it gets a little foggy, a little fuzzy, and you're having trouble focusing on it, then that means that you balance the energy around that and you've released it. Now, when I did this, when I first learned this, I would set 15, 20 minutes in my meditations and think of any childhood experiences that I had or anything from the past that comes to mind. And hold those points until I would think about it, and hold those points till I couldn't think of it anymore. And literally, it gets foggy. You have to really work hard to focus on it. So what does it do? It doesn't change the memory. It changes your reaction, and it changes that stored up energy that you have in your body that's going to come out later, probably in some type of a health challenge or a relationship problem or something like that. So these points are just so valuable. There was a little boy about 5 years old that had been, actually his mother didn't know why he was afraid of dogs. And so we held these points until he felt very comfortable with the idea of being around a dog. So you can use them at any time or anywhere.
So that helped him just to completely release whatever trauma it was.
Yes, yes. And I have nurses that use this with their patients in the hospitals that they're restless, and the nurses would just hold their forehead. I mean, how simple is that?
You don't have to explain anything.
Someone's in shock or trauma, hold their forehead. You don't have to do anything.
And so what you're saying is this brings these challenges, these subconscious memories into the present moment. And the present moments are a point of power.
Exactly.
And we all want to stay present.
Yes.
And when anything that takes us out of the present moment, like those challenging emotions, then use these points to help release that, because you're going to start living everything that you've got stored in the subconscious memory.
Yeah. And I use this, I had a behavior pattern I write about in the book of jealousy and relationships. So I finally got to the where in relationships, when jealousy came up, nobody knew I was jealous. I waited until I was quiet by myself and I could hold these points and go through that event and release that. So this is what we're talking about. This is a time where we cannot hang on to anything. It's time for us to go through that little tiny hourglass, and everything else has to go that won't fit through that hole. Okay?
And that's so, any challenging emotions.
Yes, yes, anything. So I can't tell you how important these are and how simple and easy this is, and teach this to the children.
Yes.
Just think of that. So anyway, that's our now points in chapter 9.